Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of Pride, Prejudice, and Dragons. I accidentally took my notes with me and didn't get them to Tony, so he asked me to do the recap video. However, I am not our lovely friend, and I did not make a narrative, so we're just going to kind of go based off my notes, whatever I felt in the moment I needed to take down to, set the stage. The party at Prince Osmandi's was still going. I mean, it wasn't exactly going strong. It was winding down. Um, but Eridor, Alethana, and Whack were still there to, set the stage. Erissus and Horace were going back to his house because they were really cute and adorable and it was really awkward. Our little Horace, sad little friend. And they go back to his house, and Erissus finds this lab that belongs to Horace's dad, Ter Dixon. And it's got 3 doppelgangers in like slots, like spaces for them on the walls. And there's a spot for another one. And she's like, what the fuck? And he's pissed. I wrote down Anger Boy because Horace ruined his experiment. And he offers to prepare a room for Erissus to stay for the night. And she's like, Erissus and Horace. He offers to prepare a room for Erissus to stay for the night. And she's like, okay, I guess. She reluctantly agrees. He offers to prepare a room. There's a very old, sad kind of looking butler, because he's really old, so he's sad. He leads Erissus to her room. It's really dusty, I wrote down. He says he's going to bring back some tea. She's exploring the room. She finds some quilts, a kid's diary. She tests the door and it's pushed back, and everyone was like, ah. But it was just the butler. He came back with a tea. And she's like, okay, so like, how long you been here? How long has this creepy shit been going on? And he's like, some questions are better left unanswered. And what the fuck, right? Gives her some tea and she sniffs it and she doesn't drink it and she pours it out the window when he's gone. There's a very old cut back to the party. Eridor meets up with Karen, which was the douche bro dwarf from earlier in the evening that Allie had kind of hung out with for a little bit and pissed off because she was drunk and her charisma wasn't at its finest, but whatever. He seems like kind of a bitch anyway. He calls her rude, which honestly he could fight me. Cut back to the party. Eventually, Eridor finds Alethana and her halfling friend Artie pigging out in the kitchen. Pigging because he lives on a farm. Haha. Alethana's pretty drunk, and Eridor's like, okay, sweetie, let's get you home. And she's like, where's Whack? Alethana's kind of describes her last sighting of Whack being dragged off by people because he was being crazy and throwing up places and going all like, I'm gonna fight you, Selena Gomez, and she whooped his ass. But Eridor leaves Allie for a moment to go upstairs, walking over passed out people and trying to find him. Eventually, Eridor finds, I have an inserted quote described as why we love our friend group in my notes, and it's a quote from Tony, and it goes, I'll do a live reading of my thesis when it's done. And then there was cheering, and I think that was important to include in this. I have an inserted quote, and he's basically playing the, like, if I can't see you, you can't see me game. Good for him. And he's basically playing the, like, if I can't see you. She pokes him with her quarterstaff from, like, a distance, and he catches it using his magic monk powers. And it's an intimidating moment for everyone involved. And he says, I take back everything bad I said about you when I was drunk today. But just today. And she says, fair enough. She pokes him with her quarterstaff. She rouses Whack from his drunken sleep. And they meet up with Douche Dwarf the Magnificent, aka Karen, again. He starts doing his little spiel about his brother that he obviously had a kind of weird relationship with, and he's kind of pushing that on everybody else and says it'll all be taken care of in 3 days. And everyone's like, what? And he says he's going to just fucking destroy a necromancer and get revenge on the magic users, which I think is some displaced guilt, honestly. He's the prosecuting attorney in our dear necromancer friend's case. She rouses Whack from his... And I wrote down in quotes, I'm the best, but chicks still don't want to fuck me. I mean, what the fuck is wrong with them? Hashtag Karen rules. Also, hashtag dwarves are people too. Hashtag dwarfs lives matter. And I wrote down in quotes. Cut back to Ursus searching for Horace. And there's a lot of sneaking. There's a lot of checking locked doors. I, at one point, just decided I was done writing stuff. She's exploring, and I just wrote, I'm not continuing this. But one highlight is that she found a family portrait with what she believes to be baby Horace and his mother, and she couldn't really find any other pictures, or at least none that were mentioned, of Horace with his mother anytime after he was a baby. So it's kind of like, where'd she go? What happened to her? Cut back to Erisys creeping around when she hears the butler talking to Tear. Basically, there was poison in her tea. Good thing she didn't drink it. Good on her. We're all proud of her. She finds Horace. She asks him about the doppelgangers. He's like, I can't tell you about this. You're really cool. I'm really glad we made out. And my repressed sexuality is loving this. But he's my dad. I'm in a weird bind. I can't really tell you what's going on. She's like, fair enough. Am I safe? And he's like, you should probably leave and be careful while you're doing it. So she does. She falls and hurts herself, and she makes her way back to the carriage. Back to Erisys creeping around when she hears the butler talking to Tear. Basically, there was poison in her tea. Good thing she didn't drink it. Good on her. We're all proud of her. She finds Horace. She asks him about the doppelgangers. He's like, I can't tell you about this. You're really cool. I'm really glad we made out. And my repressed sexuality is loving this. But he's my dad. I'm in a weird bind. I can't really tell you what's going on. She's like, fair enough. Am I safe? And he's like, you should probably leave and be careful while you're doing it. So she does. She falls and hurts herself, and she makes her way back to the carriage. Back to Erisys creeping around when she hears the butler talking to Tear. Basically, there was poison in her tea. Good thing she didn't drink it. Good on her. We're all proud of her. She finds Horace. She asks him about the doppelgangers. He's like, I can't tell you about this. You're really cool. I'm really glad we made out. And my repressed sexuality. Eridor and Whack meet up with Allie, Our Lady at the foot of the stairs. Amen. And they get into the carriage. And I have in my notes, Althana's a drunk college girl. This song's about me. Turn that loot up. Which, honestly, same. Eridor and Althana share a beautiful friendship moment. It's magical. They fail to notice that Whack is choking to death near them. Whack hacking. And Era drags Whack inside. And Eris is sitting there, and she's kind of like, what just happened to me tonight? And they're like, Eris, she's like, I'm drinking. It's happening. Eridor and Erisys help Whack upstairs, and Eridor pours herself a glass of whiskey. And Erisys shares her magical story, and featuring alcohol. And the girls have a deep talk about what the hell are we going to do? How are we going to deal with this? What is our priority, dealing with the doppelganger situation with the Dixons, or trying to get our friend not murdered for doing his necromancy, or I guess executed. We can discuss the death penalty later. Featuring Biddle, the hella sweet servant. I want to adopt him. I kind of took a break in writing notes at this point because I was like, Tony will take care of this, and that was a bad decision on my part. And I think we should all appreciate Tony, because this is a lot that's happening when taping. Aragorn whack. Basically, the next day, everyone's slightly hungover, but they know they do the do. And they go to the Parliament, hoping that they'll find Horace or somebody they can talk to about the events of the previous night. And eventually, they pull Horace aside, and Tyr kind of notices, but whatever. And Alethana kind of pulls him into a room by herself, and she's like, "Hey, I've been invited to join the Cabal, and you can trust me. I love magic. I want to keep it going, just like you, and I just want to make sure nobody gets hurt." And he's like, okay, so basically explains what's going on there. Each member is kind of free to do what they want. There's a kind of a no questions asked policy. There was a war of succession 300 years ago in Brickdoe between two of the noble houses over who should be ruling, and the Prydain and Atbury families won. But some people believe that the other family should have won, and Horace's dad, Tyr, is one of them. And he's working with certain people to try to change the rule or the line of succession. And she's like, what's going to happen? He says he hopes there's no more innocent lives lost. And I thought it was kind of like, it's important that you're more sure about that. it's established between the two of them that Ersis is in danger because Tyr is really scared about what's going on. And they said they'll send a message about the weather to summon Horace, but they're not going to give it to the butler if they need to talk to him again. Basically, the next day, they go to the library really briefly to find out more about this War of Succession. And there's this really cool library hobbit, and his name's Rogerston, and he does them a solid and copies some stuff on it for them using magic, and he's really cool. I want to be his friend. They go to the library really briefly. They take their friend Mayweather. I really feel like it's Mayweather or maybe Bellwether. I don't know anything. To the Gilded Bean. And she is super sweet. She's adorable. We all love her. And Alethana kind of lays it on pretty thick, trying to get some information out of her, pumping her for information. It's like if the Spanish Inquisition used over-the-top flattery instead of torture. Our heroes get back to their house, and there's an elf sitting in their living room. And he's a court member in Q&A. And he's pretty worn down. He's got some stuff going on. He's worn down. And he has a satchel, and he gives it to Alethana, and it's a bag of gold. And he's like, I got here as soon as I could. Our heroes get back to their house. Your dad has been arrested. They found letters from Tailfrasa, our apparently deep mortal enemy that we're really freaked out about. And he's a traitor, and your entire family's in prison. Your dad, it's almost as if there is a, big entity controlling what happens and just really wanted to fuck with you and a storyline that we might all be part of. It's almost as if there is. I think Chris was like, here's a glimpse into the Dixon household. And we were all like, what the fuck is going on, Chris? Why are you like this? Ah! Horace apologizes to his father. His father throws an exploding potion, which glows purple. Purple. It forces Horace to read a scroll, which is an incantation. And he whispers into a doppelganger's ear. And then it changes into his dead wife. And he's like, hello, darling. I wish you were here. You would know exactly what to do. Which is, like, what's going on? Who was she? What did she do? What was going on there? And it's real fucking creepy. It's real weird. I think Chris was like... And, Lindsay got poisoned. And found out she was allergic to stuff. Tony annihilated some trail mix in his lady's honor. And then Tony put a horse mask on and danced around his living room. And that's the recap. And hey, Lindsay. That's it. That's all I got. That's all she wrote. She being me, and she also being Chris. Um, all right. And I'll see you, hopefully, with Tony doing this voiceover instead, on the next installment of Pride, Prejudice, and Dragons. That's it. That's all I